My name is Lori Krasinski, and I was the mom, if you will, of Beans.
My name is Sonia, and I'm his sister, if you would call it call it that.
So, my name is Richard, and my relationship was, or is, Beans' dad, I guess you would say, for daddy.
There were three stages to Beans. There was the young stage, because we got him when he was only a few months old. In the young stage, he was a little small. He was small, so you had to be very careful with him. When he was older, he would explore more, and he loved to jump on the side of my chair on the arm and scare me, as if he knew that I would jump and scream. And then you have the older Beans where he would do things that he didn't do, which were out of routine towards the end, but also he would stop jumping up on the side of the chair. He would stop trying to get on the couch.
Beans was a very independent bunny. He would do his own thing, do things on his own terms. Very, very characteristic. He was a very big joy in all of our lives. He did a lot for not only me, my mom, and my dad, but also for my brother. He made it so that he could actually, touch a bunny, have him be on his lap, all that fun stuff. But he brought a lot of joy into our lives and a lot of chaos.
He was independent in the respect of he wasn't one to want to always sit with you. He would sit with you for a little bit and then perhaps go running off or whatnot. He wasn't always sitting around looking for pets or things of that nature. He was adventurous and in some ways mischievous. He was definitely a good bunny, but he liked to get himself into unusual or interesting situations, and just like any rabbit perhaps, but he was adventurous in the respect of he would be trying to get different places or new places, and say climb up the stairs to be able to get to the back of the couch or something of that nature. Yes.
He's very sassy today.
Here it goes, here it goes, here it goes.
You got him!
So at that time, Beans was our third rabbit. Our first rabbit, Ashley, Sonia's reward, if you will, for doing so good in kindergarten. When Ashley died and we got Sweet, Sonia sat in the enclosed area to play with Sweet. Well, the same thing with Beans. When we were at the shelter, Sonia sat in the enclosed area, and if she got along with Beans and Beans didn't go after her, that was the bunny. Well, we knew then because Sonia would hold Ashley in positions that bunnies typically don't like, but Ashley didn't retaliate. So we figure with Sonia in the space, she might do something that some bunnies would retaliate against, like Nipper, whereas Beans, Sweet, and Ashley just took it as, okay, this is her showing love.
We had always had anticipated that we would do an adoption of a pet rabbit, and we preferred the rabbits over cats or dogs for any number of reasons, most of which are regarding allergies. But really, it was, we spent a couple of trips going to the animal shelter and interacting and looking and trying to see what was available and who was available. It was mostly because of his demeanor when we saw him, and that he was a younger rabbit and supposedly had met the criteria that we were looking for. The criteria at the time was that we wanted a bunny that was female. We wanted a bunny that had straight ears, not lopped, and that was a younger bunny. We got 1 out of 3 right, because the shelter had felt or figured that Beans was a girl, and we already knew that his ears were lopped when we saw him. But again, he was charismatic or interested in us enough that it kind of made sense. And then obviously we found out he was a boy when we went to go have his first vet visit once we had him.
He had a good life. He was well fed. He was well loved. He would get pets. When there was an issue, we would take him to the vet and check that out. So Beans was a loved rabbit.
Full of adventure. Full of scared of trains. He was petrified of the Christmas train. He had a beef with it for some odd reason. All the time he would go after that train.
I would describe his life as good. I think he didn't want for anything. He in general had free reign and could generally do what he wanted when he wanted. So all in all, I think he had a really good life, a decent length life. Hated the idea that we had to put him down, but it was we were quickly realizing that it was quality of life versus quantity of life.
My first time holding him standing was when I grabbed him from something and he decided he wanted to crawl up my shoulder into my head. Sonia had to come help me because we were afraid. In the office we had in that house, we were afraid he was going to jump down and land wrong with that table. Little things like that, all with the way he walked when your grandmother would walk from one side of the room to the other. He would walk on the towel at her pace. Here in this space, he would have a routine. You always knew based on the time where it was. And if it was noon, that lunch lettuce better be in the bowl. If it was morning and it was 8 o'clock on a weekend, that breakfast lettuce better be in the bowl. Oh, and 5 o'clock, he would come bugging Dad. Time for dinner, time for dinner. It was like having a clock in the form of a bunny.
More than anything, him climbing on my back all the time. If I lay on the floor, he'll just plop right on there. If I lay on my back, he would plop up on there. He was a very good bunny for relationship breakups. He was your go-to guy. But all the crazy hectic adventures of him climbing up onto the couch and laying on Dad's chest and just going crazy and being our guy.
There's any number of them. There for a while he would really be more in his cage throughout the day, and then one day we had left the cage open and the top of the cage open. So we're talking like 2.5 foot tall with a little shelf, and he hopped out of the cage and he was able to land on some stuff that was just outside the cage. So then we started letting him come out on his own, and then he would get to the top of those bins that were next to this cage, and instead of we didn't have it set up for him to go in the side, he would go in from the top. So he would jump and fly pretty much across the whole cage and land in his cage from the top. As he got later in his years, that was a little bit more difficult for him to do. So there was that. There was one time that, with me being the height that I am, I was carrying him. He climbed up over my shoulder, and I'm standing in a room, and I didn't want him to. Felt like he was going to jump off of me, so I crouched down so that my back was kind of level, but still he's probably 3 foot or more off the floor, and he climbed up over my back or onto my back and jumped off of my back, and completely was not anticipating that. The other thing would be either just him sitting with us when he would and chilling, and yeah, that was always a kind of a fun little interlude with him. Well, when we adopted him, the first challenge was we couldn't take him home at first because he had a urinary tract infection, which was perhaps one of the reasons why the vets thought he was a girl. And with the urinary tract infection, we all started getting immediately overly protective of him, wanting to make sure that the animal shelter was going to be taking really good care of him and making sure that he got his medication before they were going to allow us to pick him up. So we were already kind of invested in him because of the infection that he had before we even brought him home.
Getting him not to chew on Grandpa's CPAP wire and shocking himself. I think the hardest part was the wires. If anything, wires. He loved his wires.
The challenges were really at the end when we were seeing issues and he was hiding under my chair. He never went under my recliner, and all of a sudden he started going under my recliner. And when the vet's office did a full evaluation, they saw a spot on his lung. For a rabbit, cancer, it just spreads very quickly. So, we felt we can't have him in pain while, waiting for the cancer to take him. We're gonna make the tough decision as a family, which we did.
And I just said in all caps, he's cleaning himself.
Good boy, Beans.
Good job.
Beans was a goofball. He was a lot of fun. I know I miss him, and he died and when it was not even a month, and we adopted Reese's and Oreo. I know it was pretty fast for some people, but Dad and I were missing the presence. We weren't trying to replace Beans. We were trying to bring back the presence of a rabbit in our day. And that's because Beans really made a statement on our day. And so we needed to fulfill that. Oh, and Beans decided to walk up the stairs to come join me when I go to bed. That was pretty funny.
He was a good bunny. He was always a good boy. Especially to the very end. He was he was like, whatever, man. It's my time. I'm just here gonna hang out with my family and remember everything, but he was a good boy. He understood everything. He knew when to give kisses, when someone needed kisses, and he would lick all of us for our salts, oddly enough. But he was a very good bunny, and he made a big impact in all of our lives.
No, it was though. I guess the one thing would be that it was interesting and it was tough in the respect of with my travel. It would seem that if I was not around, it would bug him. He used to sit right across from my desk, so he could see me. I could see him all day. So while working, so yeah, I think there was a closeness and affinity between us, or especially him with me, was because, as I say, he was almost with me all the time throughout the day.
Yeah. What are you doing? Hi. What's up, my man?
What do you want, Nugget? What are you looking for?
He's so confused.
Yeah. What are you looking for, you Nugget?
Hey, Papa.
You're a good Nugget.
Yeah?
You're an old Nugget.
Yeah, you just want attention, huh?
He's been missing us. Hopefully he has.
What makes you think he wouldn't miss us, silly?
No, I'm just like, hopefully.